I guess I'll ask before I get going. Has anyone ever heard of NOSTR before? Anyone familiar with it? Wow. So I guess you'd rather be in here than learning how to graph, huh? I am pretty sure though that how many of you really enjoy the social formats that we have for interaction, like Facebook and media? When I say that, I mean enjoy the way they're ran, as far as your privacy, as far as you actually owning your posts and people leaving them alone, right? Don't exist, right? So there's a lot of cool things about Nostr. This is going to be an overview class. I'm not going to get in the nitty gritty, but I think most people don't even know it exists. What if I told you there was a platform out there that is uncensorable, is designed for commerce, and you literally own everything you post? In addition to that, that rather than getting likes like the thumbs up you'd get for nice pictures, you actually get something they call SAPs, which I just always call them Zaps. I didn't even know that's what they called it until I did it, SAPS versus EAP. You actually get fractional Bitcoin people give you for what you do. I'm not going to make this a Bitcoin class, but the best way I always explain Bitcoin to people is that if you're kind of a Trekkie, I'm gonna steal this from Jack Spirko, if you're familiar who he is. If you're kind of a Trekkie guy, there's this concept called Generation Zero. Generation Zero, the people who get on the spaceship that will never see their destination, right? Not typically until 1 or 2 generations later do they actually make it to the planet. And I really think Bitcoin's kind of like that, is that you have a lot of people buying in. And I'm just talking about BTC, just regular coin. I'm not talking about all these sub coins. Those people get in earlier, the people who are doing Generation Zero. And I'm not talking about trying to accrue wealth or anything like that. I'm talking about using it as a technology, as a way to circumvent a lot of the regulations and limitations. So we have a social media platform that you own. No one can edit it. And because you have the ability to give people, if you want to, you don't have to, it's part of the platform. You have the people to give people micro, it'd be like 3 or 4 cents. It's really small amounts. But it also creates commerce, where if you wanted to sell things, and one of the downsides, if those who are not familiar with Bitcoin, is that it takes time for the transaction to happen. This uses something called a lightning node, where it's instantaneous. So if you were selling coffee or something and you had your group of people, they get instantaneous. You could arrange it through this social media, and they could send it directly to you through your social media. And so it's kind of nice. But let's go ahead and start actually get into it. If you have any questions, just stop me. We got a small enough group here. I've taught a lot of classes, especially on solar, and it's actually more entertaining to me as well as the people if we interact rather than me reading slides off. So that's what we're going to do. NOSTR stands for Notes and Other Stuff Transmitted by Relays. It's a decentralized system for sharing messages, posts, and updates online. It's like a social network, but without a central company controlling it. You are the owner of all your posts. You have custody of all your posts. You're the owner of, this case, posts and other stuff. In short, you are the only sole custody and owner. So how NOSTR technically works, we're going to break this down. Let me move this slide a little bit so we can see what's going on. I'm sure you can't. Yeah. So any user can run a relay. So if you think about it, right now you have your computer, and it breaks it down here. So if I lose you, don't worry, we'll come back to it. When you make a request to Facebook, it goes to their servers, right? And they control that at that level. But what if you had all these little relays? And the best way to explain kind of how NOSTR works is that when you ask for your email, you get your email, right? But no one's editing your email. No one's fiddling with it. No one's putting stuff in it. You get your email. Well, what if there was a system where you could upload kind of like your email, but like in a Facebook post, and other people could recall that? So at that point, it's not an application as much as it's a protocol. It's actually a request for the computer to do a thing versus actually use an app. So what happens is when I make my posts in NOSTR, it goes to these relays. There's over 1,000 relays. Somebody didn't like you and they wanted to kick you off the relay. It doesn't matter. You literally have access to most of these relays. So they would literally have to get rid of all of them to censor you. When you make a request, you put your note or your post, we'll just call it post, we'll use Facebook jargon, up in this relay. Then other people can basically, when they get on NOSTR, say, hey, I want all of John's posts, or can I follow John? Just like you would on Facebook. Or if you're kind of new to NOSTR and like, look, I don't know anybody, you can use hashtags. Iowa, boom, all the Iowa posts will come up. Because people, when they make their posts, they'll use a hashtag. They'll say, like mine will say Bean Tree Homesteading or Self-Reliance or Agorism or any of that stuff. And you can put that in there and it's going to pull up all those posts. And then you can follow people. And no matter where you go in the world, you can pull up that. You can take your tribe with you, okay? So basically, you upload these things to the relay, and then you use something called a client. We're going to get into that in order to view it. It acts like an app in order to view all the stuff on the relays. Okay, is everybody tracking? You don't need to understand totally. We'll get through it. I don't want to get ahead of myself. How does NOSTR work? NOSTR uses public and private keys. Okay. Do we have any beekeepers in here? Okay. When they start using the word like supers and brood, they use all these stupid words, right? And you're like, what the hell does this mean? Don't allow this to dissuade you. We're going to break it down. This thing uses something called public and private keys to create and manage the accounts. Think of them like a username and password, but more secure. A public key is like your address where people can send messages to you post. It's pretty much your identity. Your name is what they call a public key. It's kind of like your main name, and then you have what they call surnames, but it's your name. It's who you are. It's your public key. Everybody sees it. Everybody notices that your posts have your name on it, okay? A private key is like a secret password that lets you control your messages, posts, and protect your privacy. So on a public key, if I was going to make a post, it would say, John made this post. But in order for that post to be tied to my name, I would have to give it what's called a private key so it can tie the two together. So no one can be me. No one can go in there and edit it without that private key. It allows me to have custody of that post. It allows me to have custody of my name, which in this case is the public key. Is everybody tracking? Okay. So just like you have your money that you're walking around in your wallet, you also have your bank account numbers, right? So you just look at it's the same concept. A bank account number, just tell somebody what your bank account is, but they can't access it. You can use it for a lot of different things, but they can't access it. You would have to have your password to manage your bank account number. That's how NOSTR works. That's how it does its custody. Okay, we're tracking. Like I say, if anybody has any questions, especially a couple that came in, stop me, and we'll talk about it. Okay, this gets broken down a little more. Okay, so rather than having a server where everything is stored on, where they can mess with your stuff, which when you go on Facebook, you type in COVID was false, boom, you get flagged. They'd rewrite it, you'd have all the whatever misinformation is that we don't even know. We know how history looks at people who control information, right? People just don't learn. But so I say, oh, I got this beautiful post of this water bottle. Okay. So I'm gonna take a picture of it. I'm gonna send it to a relay. It goes up to a relay. When you open up what's called your client, which is what you use to look at these relays. So in your case, it'd be like Facebook. You'd open up your Facebook and it would look at the server. You would say, hey, it'd pull down the picture of my water bottle and you can make comments and it'd go up to that relay. But because there's literally over 1,000 relays, it's decentralized. Nobody owns a single relay. As a matter of fact, if you know how to use a computer or Raspberry Pi, you can make a relay in your house. It's really that simple. Okay. Anyway, so NOSTR doesn't have a central server like Facebook or Twitter. Instead, it uses relays, which are servers that store and send messages like email. I explained it earlier. Your email sits on a little slot, and when you call it, it just comes down. Nobody messes with it. No one edits it. NOSTR's the same way. When you make a request, it's called a protocol. It sends it down. Okay. So basically, you send a message to a relay, and it forwards it as a request to the people who are connected to it, who are following you, and they can pull it down. Let's go one more. Stop being stupid. So basically, this is kind of what it looks like. You have all these relays, they're all tied together. And like, I may be on this relay and I put all my information on here. And then Linda, who's one of the big wigs that's running this, she may be on this relay. And then when I get on there, I can make a request, pull, she may be using multiple relays, so I'll say, pull everything that's tied to Linda. And what it's going to use is her private key. We just talked about that. And it's going to pull all that information so I can watch her because I follow her. So it's going to make a request to pull all that information down. Okay. It's decentralized. Somebody says, I don't like John. He posts too much stuff about not being a slave. And they delete that relay. That's fine because when I come up, it's just going to load it up to another relay. Okay, it's decentralized. That's why it's so powerful. Relay fun facts, the NOSTR network operates with a total of 1,005 relays. Among these are 471 are public. Those are ones you can access. 101 are restricted. Those are people who have basically going to be like companies, going to be people who may have groups, so only certain people can access the relay. And 343 are offline. Those 343 typically will take places somewhere in this mix-up around the year. These relays operate as an autonomous system across 50 countries, totaling 151 autonomous systems. So not only do you have over 1,000 relays, you have 151 autonomous systems. A fact that among the 50 countries hosting NOSTR relays, no single country or autonomous system accounts for more than 25% of the relays. Currently, North America leads at 470. So even if they said, hey, you Americans are going to feel the freedom crunch, we're going to limit your speech for the safety of everybody, right? That's how normally it sounds. The desire to help mankind has always been an argument to roll over it. Okay, well, fine. I can still get NOSTR in India, and all my stuff goes with it. You see how that is? Okay, so that makes it virtually uncensorable. Matter of fact, NOSTR is so uncensorable that if you make a boo-boo on one of your posts and you want to delete it, it really all it does is it makes so when people see your posts, they use something called client. I'll get into that. It just makes a request to the client to not show it, but it still exists. So if you can't even delete something that belongs to you, there's no way anybody else can. And no one else can fiddle with it because remember we were talking about like having your bank account number? No one else has an access to your bank account number. Or in this case, no one has access to your public key because they don't have your private key to access it. Using NOSTR, let's stand this down a little bit. You can use NOSTR on different apps called clients. Clients are what you use to view all this stuff. If you have Apple or Android, it's going to have a different client. My recommendation is when you get in there, try a few. I use Amethyst on my phone. There's one called Primal, and it's going to show a different font and format. You may say, oh, I like this one, or oh, I don't like this one. It'll allow you to navigate, and it'll navigate the posts differently. The other thing is because since NOSTR's open format, people are building new clients all the time. Or you can make a recommendation. Hey, could you imagine being on Facebook and say, hey, I don't like the way you do this. Can you fix it? Well, someone will go in there and they'll pick it up and they'll do it. And like, well, no one's picking up, hey, I'll give you 3 zats. It might be like 9 cents through Bitcoin. Instantaneous, they'll go and do it. So it's self-funding. You can get it editable. You can change it. Anyways, let me get back to it. These apps allow you to send and receive messages through NOSTR. Some common apps for NOSTR are Damus, Atheist. There's a whole bunch of different names. If you were to get on Google app and type in NOSTR, it's going to pull up the Android ones, of course, or you can pull up the ones for Apple. Okay. My recommendation is that I'm going to show you a way that once you get your public and private keys, okay, everyone's tracking me what these things do, right? Once you store those on your phone, there's a way that you can load any client that you want, which is the client is what we view the relays with. It'll automatically just key you in, automatically log you in. So you can have like all of them if you want to just see which ones navigate the most or which ones you like using the most. Okay. Each app has a different look, but they all let you interact with the same NOSTR network. Okay. In short, client is the app used to view and interact with relays on NOSTRs. Each of them is a bit different how they deal with the information, but they all do the same thing. Okay. Here's a list. Of course, I highlighted mine. A lot of people use Primal, which works both for Android and iOS. So if you have 2 formats, some people have desktop iOSs and phone Androids or vice versa. Amethyst is the one that I use. It doesn't really matter. Of course, but wait, there's more. I think we all know what I don't need to sign up. Okay, so we talked about this briefly before you guys came in. So I post a picture of my chicken coop. Let's say it's like really cool. Like, so on Facebook, what you do is get a bunch of thumbs up, right? On NOSTR, you have the ability to send and receive what's called SAPs. All SAPs are is that people who may have a Bitcoin wallet, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Trust me, well, I'm not going to lose you. I'm not going to get too technical because I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty. But if you have a Bitcoin wallet, you can say, "Oh, I like John's chicken coop," and then you, rather than hitting the thumbs up button, there's going to be like a little lightning bolt. You click that, and it'll send me instantaneously through NOSTR. It'll send me fractional Bitcoin, so maybe 3 or 4 cents. Okay. So rather than getting thumbs up, you can actually get monetary Bitcoin instead. Okay. So it's a nice feature, but here's the cool part about it. I said earlier, Bitcoin typically takes time. This is instantaneous because it is formatted with that feature. Is that if you are selling, say, I am selling microgreens. I gotta be careful with the camera. I type in microgreens. All these people pop up. And I said, okay, well, now I'm going to sell. Hey, look, I'm all this. And you put microgreens in there. So basically now you've got your own little community because you're all using the same hashtags. And that's one of the ways you can search for things on NOSTR. I want to sell this. Okay, well, when basically they can send you through BTC, they can send you the money and then you deliver your microgreens. So if you use, there's this plugin called Albi. What Albi does is that if you're familiar with plugins, they're basically like just little tiny apps you put on your phone or on your computer. Okay. What Albi does is it stores both your private and your public key and your Bitcoin all in one location. And it allows you to basically have that always on the fly so you can just do one word login and you have everything. I use Albi on mine because I don't have a Bitcoin wallet right now installed on it, but it allows you to basically do peer-to-peer exchange with everyone out there. So what I hear, so basically I'm gonna point this out. Overview of NOSTR is uncensorable and it's decentralized. You have self-custody of your content that you own. You make posts that you make. You can earn Bitcoin by making an awesome post, and it comes with the built-in format for commerce, and it's decentralized. Everything that everybody complains about Facebook, this thing fixes. But yet they go back and they're like, I have literally years and years of pictures, literally years and years of posts. If you have a Facebook page that is tied to your homestead, and all of a sudden, just because they didn't like my format or they didn't like how I did my password, all that stuff is gone forever. I know that I probably lost the best pictures of my kids through Facebook I'll never see ever again in my life, right? And so, and that had to do with somebody hacked in. I tried to get it backed up, boom, it's gone forever, right? In NOSTR, you're not going to have that problem because you're going to own it. You physically own it as far as having keys to access it. So here's the thing. When you get in there, it's going to be a little sparse. Most of the stuff is going to be Bitcoin conversations, but I recommend you just type in Iowa or type in homesteading or type in whatever if you don't have anyone's name, and you'll start building what's called a tribe. It's just a group of people that fall within what your interests are. And then you're all of a sudden before you're like, hey, I have excess honey. Would you guys be interested? Even if you don't care about Bitcoin at all, which is fine, you have to understand that one of the reasons Bitcoin is so powerful, if Wells Fargo decides they want to move money from Japan to Arkansas, and let's say they want to move a lot, there used to be a large fee to move. It's funny because it's not even money, it's just numbers, right? But there used to be a large fee to move it across. It used to be a cost and a time. What these banks that still use fiat currency will do is they'll turn it to Bitcoin just for a short second. They'll transfer it all and then bring it back up again. So the ability to use commerce, which is actually the strength of Bitcoin, unregulated, instantaneous commerce, is really its strong point, even if you don't care about the rest of it. I can tell you that when people talk about decentralization and they worry about fiat currency and how we're going to do this, a lot of times you see people go, well, look, I live at home. I produce this thing. I don't have a market for it. I don't know how to get money for it. I live in an apartment. How do I do this? Well, you could do all of it through NOSTR. If you got a mailing address and a phone that has internet access, you're done. You're good. That used to be impossible. It used to be we had to have warehouse receiving. We used to have a landline. You used to have a mailing. And then you had a mailing list. And I mean, now it's just like, okay, it's all right there. So, but it's not the amount of people that are on it versus Facebook. There's a huge difference. But I think unless you are okay with certain people owning your Facebook posts, unless you're okay with the censorship we got during this last group, which some people find okay, I guess. Unless you don't really care about the ability to do commerce without fiat currency, go ahead and keep using Facebook. I mean, right now I use it just because of my homestead and I get my classes out and stuff like that. But the fact is that it's, unless you're in the podcast area, you really probably haven't heard about NOSTR. And what they're doing with it, because it's decentralized and no one owns it. We're just in the beginning, as far as the formats and stuff. They're even doing some stores set up on NOSTR format, instantaneous. And so, any questions? Are you actually navigating it right now, or? Yeah, that's fine. No, I'm okay with that. I'm like one person. No, just kidding. I know one person did it.
No, I'm a hands-on learner, so
okay.
I can just be building the format as I go and take notes and follow your steps. That's for me.
I would not be.
Go back and be like, hey, what was that? And it makes more sense as I'm looking at it as to what you're saying. Because some of this, I'm like, I hear your words.
Correct, but you have no application. Yes, I understand.
So if I'm following along as I create an account and things like that, okay, I see what he's talking about with finance work.
Yes. Let me you got a couple more slides.
Okay. Be rude, like,
no, that's no. I'm happy. So basically this kind of whole, which pill are you going to have taken? Are you okay with algorithms to keep you hooked? No control of your data, lack of engagement on post, users can be deplatformed or shadow banned, no financial incentives for content creators. So basically that's your choice. I think regardless how you feel, I think markets, money, communities, decentralization is the answer. I really don't care what party you profess to, what the Yankees versus the Mets, because most people treat it like a baseball game anyways. But we saw during the COVID and the lockdowns, it was the communities, the counties, the mayors that really mattered. Because your quality of life didn't really care what the Fed was doing. If the mayor says, you know what, we're going to do this thing called nullification. Yeah, well, guess what? That's an American tradition. We're not going to do it. It was decentralization. And this thing is just so much powerful for decentralization. I sell repurposed solar panels on the side. I'll talk about that in my solar class. But my dad asked me, he's like, well, did you file as a business with the government? Did you go through the LLC? Did you all this stuff? And I said, well, Dad, the funny thing is no, I didn't. But yet everyone who has a closed business, what are they going to do when they find out close me? There's no incentive for me to participate if you're just going to punish me anyways. And so with NOSTR, you could get out to your groups, take all your money and just drop it off. My largest solar class I had was close to 30 people on my front porch, was actually a few months into COVID where everyone kind of had a reason to still be a little worried. Yeah, we had like 30 people. And so, here's, NOSTR actually has its own website if you want to learn about it. My recommendation is you get on Jack Spirko or the Survival Podcast and type in NOSTR, but this website breaks down all the funny wording. We talked about the beekeeping, they use funny wording. And
Jack Spirko?
Yeah, if you just type in the Survival Podcast, you'll see there's actually an episode about 2 hours long of me talking about legacy on that one. Not that I would recommend anybody listening to me for 2 hours, but he's very much, that's how I got here, is through him. So I think as homesteaders, this is great and right up our alley, but most people are really unfamiliar with it. And then you start talking about relays and keys and all this stuff in their head, just like, yeah, I'm not interested. So you want it just difficult enough for the people who want to censor you don't want to be bothered with it, right? And so, but anyways, that's all I have, really, to be honest with you. It's just kind of a summary. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Maybe a stupid question.
Shoot.
I think I know the answer to it, but I'm going to ask just in case. So you said you can get saps,
Yes.
equate to likes,
Yes.
couple fittings here or there.
Yes.
Assuming that if I wanted to sap you,
Yes.
I would need to have a BTC set up.
Yes. Yep. And so you have to have a Bitcoin wallet that has to have an account tied to it. Allbee will manage all of that. If you go in there and look at YouTube, it says how to tie the two together.
Yeah.
I think it's going to become more fluid where it's almost instantaneous, because what you just said is the hang up that I've had because I haven't gone into it enough, where I'm like, these people are like, hey, I got like 5 posts. Hey, I got hats I want to send you, but it says you're not hooked up yet. See?
So you've got to hook up 2 receipts.
Yeah, you don't have to put anything in a wallet. You just got to have one.
Okay.
But what I'll tell you, most people do is that they'll say, hey, about 35% of my sats I'll put to the side so I can give to other people. Because most Bitcoiners really want a way to spend their Bitcoin, because that's why they get involved, because it's a form of barter without fiat currency. So I haven't gotten involved yet, but there's a lot of Bitcoin conventions where if I show up as a homesteader with honey, I couldn't sell you that for that amount, but you're willing to spend more than that in Bitcoin just so you have an outlet for it. And because you're also perpetuating the use of Bitcoin. And so there's places, I think, and if you ever heard of the Free State Project, anyone familiar with that? Okay. Anyways, I'm not sure if it's Vermont or whatever, but a lot of their bars and a lot of their stuff, they take Bitcoin at the bar. You can actually buy Bitcoin, buy cars. I know there's a place you can pay for your cable if people still have cable. You can use it a lot for commerce, but the strength of Bitcoin has to do with the instantaneous. It has to do with it is somewhat trackable. Most people don't think it is, but it's allow you to not have to use fiat currency. We talked about it in my legacy class. Has anybody ever looked, and we're going to get a little off topic here because we have the time, but has anyone ever looked up the USDebtClock.com? Anyone familiar with that website? Okay, we'll talk about my legacy. It's a live action. You pull it up right now, it's moving. It's entertaining to some extent until you realize that each man, woman, and child, including all your children, are on the hook for over $100,000 because it divides it among everybody, what it is. And then it shows you we're already consuming more than 100% of our GDP. Now, saying that is like talking to someone who's never seen fruit and talking about pineapples and bananas. What that really means is that if you were to kind of put it in perspective, if you were to look at not sound nerdy here, but if you look at the Napoleonic Wars.
I'm sorry, you already crossed it.
That's fine. If you were to look at the wars when Napoleon was fighting, so whenever Europe was at war, the highest GDP, the debt ratio, which means how much they're actually consuming of their own product, the highest they had is 12%. We're at over 100. I think it's like 110%. We eat 110%. So everything that we produce, you can actually believe, well, we're producing one more, but the government's eating it all in its own value. So when you're driving along and you're looking at refrigerators or looking at new TVs, everything, you can just figure the government's eating one more of those things that is not being produced in value. It's really at that point kind of staggering, because they talk about 38 trillion in debt, but we also have over 100 trillion in non-final liabilities. I'm not going to cover that too much here because it's in the legacy class, because we talk about the ability, the need to and every time that a government has gotten that way, they demonetize the money. And people are like, they won't well, they demonetized it in the 70s. Why would they not do it again? And so they'll demonetize it once again. And the guess is it'll go digital. But I don't know how quick that's going to happen. I don't know. I'm worried on other projects. I got a homestead to worry about. You can worry about that stuff. So someone asked me, what's the difference between a prepper and a homesteader? And I have to be careful because I have both at this convention. And I'm not talking down about preppers at all. But preppers are basically playing Jenga and worried about the tower falling over, where homesteaders are playing with Legos. And I say, and I said it on the podcast I was interviewing on, I really believe this. If all people who are prepper minded were homesteaders, the system you're worried about falling apart would not exist. So let's be homesteaders. What's the difference between homesteaders and farmers? Open up a farmer's refrigerator in the middle of summer. His tomatoes say Mexico on it, not mine. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. Okay, well, I'm not going to get too far on tangents because I can just rattle on. If there's anything you want to see, go take a look at it. If you have any more questions, I'm happy to have all you here. I'm really excited. If you guys, I don't care if you're doing chickens or just starting seed plants. They're all intro drugs in the freedom. I've seen more people end up free because of chickens than I have seen by all our non-constitutional wars that we seem to enjoy being in. So that's it. Good. Great. So if there's any questions you have about anything else that I do that's been brought up a few times, just feel free to engage me or let me know. So if you haven't been to the vendors, the vendor hall's there. I hope to see all the rest of you, maybe in my other classes as well. Hopefully I wasn't too boring. So, yeah.
That's just all new information.
Yeah.
I teased you, but.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's really what a lot of people have been waiting for. It's like anything else, you know, you want to change it or do you want to be subject to what you're already dealing with? So,
And you're not gonna see an advertisement for this on Twitter or Facebook.
no. Although I think Facebook does have some NOSTR Facebook pages. So, cross-platform.
Yeah.
So,
So maybe I just need to play with it. Like I'm on NOSTR, but I don't see how to find anyone.
so yeah. So if let me get in there with you. I should have put it on. You can search hashtags.
Okay, from where?
So, which you're using is this final?
That's just NOSTR right now. It's literally just NOSTR.com. I tried to put it on Bible,
Okay.
and it said that I need
So
a
this is-
13-digit code.
Yeah, so this is
30.
This is, I think, this is the NOSTR website.
Yes.
This is
Okay.
NOSTR, not NOSTR as in the client's looking at the list.
So then I tried
You can
to
ask
create
for-
the,
Oh, there's access, yeah.
but then I couldn't find what is.
Yeah, you gotta basically start from scratch. You
Okay.
have an account, yeah, go back in the system.
Okay.
And so you wanna set an account, sign up, there you go. And
Okay.
that's how you start it. Why should you do it? So how should we call him? Steve?
Okay.
This is
So
what we're gonna do.
I don't put in the NOSTR account?
No,
Okay,
Then that's-
perfect.
what we're gonna do is you can put your name, and
Okay.
they're gonna probably sign you a private, because your private keys aren't really super long, all your keys are long.
Okay.
Now you use your as
Okay, thank you. I thought I was supposed to bring.
Your keys
So
are
not
great,
there.
okay, so now you can do conversations, you can do all your searching, this year you can write your own posts.
Okay.
So like if you
So then what was yours?
search it's like Bean Tree Homestead, you don't even have to need a hashtag, you should just come up with that's my name. Bean as in like the lima bean, BEAN.
There we go.
Yeah, there it is. So
Yeah.
Follow, and I'll go and click on my links, and there's all my stuff.
Okay, so
So
now they're
now-
very similar to that.
Yeah, but now for I'm about everybody. Now forever, when you pull up your desk, top is going to show you all the people you follow.
Okay,
There's my podcast. So you can search if you hit town, yeah, if you search Iowa or Homesteader or whatever in that slot, you build all of us. And there you go.
fantastic. Thank you
Just
for
okay.
walking me through that.
yeah, it's nice to know that you were able to do it in just a few minutes. So I don't feel like,
No, that was
So-
helpful.
yeah.
Thank you.
I think you're using Amethyst, right? That's what I'm using.
Yes.
The format looks familiar.
Right.
Yep. And I'll just say, however much time you put in, that's how valuable it's going to be to you. So,
Right, right.